Jenna is on and here to lead our session that's happening right now. So thank you, Jenna, for leading this awesome session.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. I am just blown away by all of the expertise from all of our panelists today and yesterday, including our very own Candace. So thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us today, Candace. So yeah, we've learned a lot about strategy so far. And I hope that this next session, where we hear from real organizations actually implementing all of the strategies and tactics that we've discussed, how they were able to run their events seamlessly and successfully. So without further ado, let me share my screen real quick. And I will introduce our speakers. So again, this session is all about planning and executing events in 2021 and beyond. And so, it's like, what does that even mean now? What is the way to run events? Is it in person? Is it virtual? Is it a combination of both? So we're gonna discuss what that means with our lovely speakers. So we have Andrea Buchanan, the Executive Director from the Spinal CSF Leak Foundation, and also Emily Newton, the Climb Out of Darkness Manager at Postpartum Support International. And so just real quick, I'll go over our agenda for today. I'm gonna go over briefly what CauseVox is for you, because I know some of you are here and you think, are you a conference sponsor or host or just event coordinator? We actually provide digital fundraising products for organizations. So I'll go over a couple of our products. Then we'll see the actual examples of these successful events that I'm referencing with our organizations. And we'll be discussing the specific tactics and strategies that made these events successful. And then again, how you can run a campaign on CauseVox, and then I'll briefly go over pricing. So let's get this underway. So just real quick, CauseVox is a digital fundraising company designed to help organizations raise more with less effort. And so while some platforms are clunky or complex, they're contract bound, CauseVox is none of that. We're fast, efficient, really easy to get up and running, and there's no contracts. So we make things pretty seamless for you in that respect. You can run all of your digital fundraising under us. So we specialize in the digital fundraising component. So we want you and help you convert more donors with our donation forms. So you can modernize and streamline that donation process by embedding donation forms directly onto your website. So you can optimize for those recurring gifts year round, as well as those pledges that we've discussed. And I'll get into more of those examples in the demo that's coming up in an hour from now. In addition, you can run crowdfunding, and that's completely brandable to your organization. And it has all of the metrics and thermometer graphics and visuals that you need to be successful online when you have your networks sharing your page out across social media. So fully integrated there. Peer-to-peer. We invite you to utilize the peer-to-peer strategy where you are activating your key supporters to raise funds on your behalf. And you've heard a lot about peer-to-peer throughout the conference. And so right now in this session, we're actually going to dive into how practically you can get people to sign up and be a part of your mission and your movement online. So we help you do that clutter-free. And then finally, event ticketing, which we've added to our housed products. So you can run event ticketing in connection with your peer-to-peer or as a standalone page, just to make running these digital events more seamless. You can accept donations and also ticketed tickets simultaneously. And so now I am very excited and privileged to introduce our panelists. So first, I'd like to introduce Emily Newton, the Climb Out of Darkness Manager at Postpartum Support International. Emily is a yoga instructor and perinatal mood and anxiety disorder advocate. So after suffering from and being treated for PPA after the birth of her second son. She became an advocate and has been working with Postpartum Support International for their Climb Out of Darkness campaigns. And so I just thank you so much for coming. Emily, would you like to share a little bit more about yourself and your work at the organization? Is Emily here right now? I think I see Emily. Maybe we can move on to Andy first then. Let me check in with Andy. Andy, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, I can.
Awesome.
So Andy is the executive director of Spinal CSF Leak Foundation, and she is a New York Times bestselling author whose latest book, The Beginning of Everything, was a finalist for the 2019 PENEO Wilson Award for Literary Science Writing. So she is great, a very prolific writer and advocate for this organization. So Andy, welcome, and please feel free to share with us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. So as she said, my name's Andrea, but I go by Andy, and I'm executive director of the Spinal CSF Leak Foundation. I started there actually as a volunteer, helping with their storytelling team, and eventually took on more and more responsibility. So I just joined as executive director this past February. And our organization was founded in 2014, and our mission is to help reduce the suffering of people affected by spontaneous intracranial hypotension or spinal CSF leak.
Wonderful. That's such important work. And I just thank you so much for all the work that you're doing there. And I'm excited to dive into your campaign soon. Hi, Emily. How are you? Oh, I don't know if you are muted still. I don't know if Candace can.
Can you try testing your audio or reconnecting your audio? Ooh, you can hear me?
You can hear us?
Can you go to the bottom of the Zoom pane and click on the caret next to the mute little icon and try testing your speaker and microphone? But yeah.
It's the beauty of live events. But, you know, I'm happy to just start in with Andy's, a little bit more about Andy's organization while Emily gets up and running over there, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
Cool. And then, yeah, Emily, just let me know when you're all set. So yeah, today I wanted to just start by asking what you learned about digital fundraising in the time of COVID that influenced your most recent fundraising on CauseVox.
Well, probably the biggest thing we learned was just to not be afraid to continue to ask. You know, we were all a little bit concerned that perhaps with COVID and the pandemic and people were frightened or tapped out or, you know, maybe just hunkering down and not willing, not interested or not able to donate to us, to support us in the ways that they had in the past. But, you know, our condition doesn't stop for a pandemic, and neither do the people suffering from it. And we were really, really grateful and surprised to see that, you know, the support that we got from our community didn't diminish at all. And so that was a big kind of learning experience for us.
Awesome. Yeah, and so for this last event, you ran, what type of event was that? Was it virtual or hybrid or in person? What kind of event was that?
It was virtual.
It was a fully virtual event. Okay, great.
This year or last year?
Oh, Emily.
Yes.
Okay. She's back.
Okay.
Awesome.
I know, right?
Cool. So, okay, so thanks, Andy, for just giving us a little bit back of like what you learned. So this is all about like just making the ask, making yourselves available. I think that's what we've been hearing so far all along this conference, especially day 2 now. So Emily, I don't know, feel free to reintroduce yourself, and then you can answer that question as well. What have you learned as a result of fundraising in the time of COVID that will influence your fundraising moving forward?
Okay, so hi, I'm Emily. I had a baby. I felt sad. I got better. And then I started running this program. That's like the really, really short version, but it's accurate. So let's see what we learned last year. In order to go, we have to go backwards. So it was okay that all of our volunteers who do all of our fundraising needed to take a step back. Like all of a sudden, all the people who do our peer-to-peer work had children at home that were supposed to be in daycare, or were supposed to be at school, or were supposed to be like literally anywhere else. They were all back home with us. And so I just made room for that to be okay. You know, if you want to take the year off, take the year off. If you want to, as Andy said, like if you want to keep asking, don't be afraid to ask, because there are definitely people who are not feeling pinched by, you know, the pandemic the same way that others are. And they're the ones that are really inclined to give right now, because they can see that everyone else is struggling. And so when we kind of came back to an in-person model this year, we offered like a hybrid of virtual or in-person, or you know, something that was hybrid and a little bit of both. So like our participation was not just like come meet us at the park on the day of the event. It was engage with us online 3, 4, 5 times. You know, share the view from here, tell us what you're doing today, or, you know, be honest about something that you were struggling with. So.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point about being able to pivot and just adapt to the new normal of having everyone was inside, cooped up. We were all with our families 24/7, right? And so that had to have affected workflow and work-life balance. And so yours was, you started running a virtual event as well, right?
Yeah,
and it was kind of a
last
hybrid.
year we did a virtual event that was like virtual and from home, because
Virtual.
our event occurs at the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of June, like most states, at least in the US, we're still like, you're at home, you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything. And so, you know, we got into the like chalk the walk and chalk the driveway that everybody else was doing. And we wrote like positive affirmations for people who might be walking around in your neighborhood, pushing their baby in a stroller. And all of a sudden they're like, have a baby, it'll be great. And you're stuck at home, like the baby's grandparents can't even come visit because it's too dangerous. I mean, anyway, the rates are up. Let's just say that we're needed more than ever now.
Yeah, of course. And so I know that both of you had pretty successful campaigns most recently. So it's been, you just ran them at the top of 2021, correct? And I guess my question is, how much were you able to raise on CauseVox compared to maybe a previous in-person fundraising event? And so if you can provide, any metrics you have with that or an increased ROI, that would be great for us to just understand the impact that virtual fundraising can make for your org.
Sure. Well, one thing about our organization is that pretty much everything we do is virtual, because many of the people in our community are bedbound, and so they can only participate virtually. So, but the difference is that in the past we haven't had a peer-to-peer platform at all, and it's just all been kind of thrown together on social media or Facebook, that sort of thing. So our event is called Dura Dash, and because when you have a spinal CSF leak, you have a hole in the dura mater that surrounds your brain and spinal cord, and that's what's affected, or that's like where the defect is, where cerebrospinal fluid leaks out. So we had a Dura Dash. In past years, it's been kind of a virtual race. This year, it was more of an activity challenge. We were just encouraging people to start where they were. If you could get out of bed, that's great. If you were able to walk, that's great. If you're able to run, that's even better. Whatever. It all kind of counted. So we weren't able to do it last year because of the pandemic. It was just too much going on for everybody. But the year before, when we'd done it, I think maybe we managed to raise $5,000, something like that. This year we raised over $30,000.
Wow.
And yeah, and
That is an incredible increase. I don't do math very well, but it seems like more than 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it was in large part due to a couple of things. First of all, the platform at CauseVox was so easy for people to use. It was easy for people to use on mobile, which was great because so many of our participants were just on their phones using it. It was very easy to use for us on the back end. It was easy to promote. It was easy to add to it. It was easy to see, you know, who was participating, and people enjoyed giving updates through the platform. And yeah, it really made a difference. Yeah, this person who you're showing on the screen raised $13,000 all by herself using this platform. So yeah.
So it sounds like ease of use was one of the key features on CauseVox that helped you achieve your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And also having attended other CauseVox webinars and listening to other people who had done virtual events and learning from what they did in order to you know, provide a toolkit for our participants, or that sort of thing. That was also super useful.
Awesome. Well, I am just, just in awe of how well you were able to do on a budget and just in short amount of time and just in comparison to years past. And I also saw that you were tracking activity. How was that for your participants?
Yeah, that was great because people they were tracking their minutes of activity rather than a specific like miles walked or that sort of thing. So anything could count for the activity, you know what I mean? So yeah, people were able to say like, well, I knitted today, or I petted my cats for 5 minutes, and that was their 5 minutes of activity that counted. So that made it really, that made the bar for entry really low for everybody, and nobody felt like, oh, I can't do this because I can't run or walk a mile or whatever it was. So that was really useful. And
awesome.
yeah, and then through using the CauseVox platform, we were able to see like who joined up right away to participate and who was using the platform to give updates. And then we were able to identify who was really kind of involved and excited about it. And then I kind of gathered those people together as we call them our durables, a little set of super volunteers basically, and we helped encourage them to really use the toolkit to get the word out. And then I featured some of them in little spotlights throughout and before and during the event process to get people excited about it, to see how are people participating in this event, what's their story, and really kind of using that story to get people either interested in donating or joining up to participate.
Awesome. Yeah, just
Hey,
being
Andy,
able
I have
to...
a question.
Yeah.
How, it never occurred to me to put like the toolkit right here on the landing page. Duh, that's amazing. I love it. How else are you engaging with your audience? Like, do you have like a Facebook group or like a Slack channel, or what else are you doing to like get this to them?
A lot of people in our community are on Facebook. So we definitely heavily promoted this on social media. You know, this also was taking place at the same time as our awareness week, which was June 7th to June 12th. And this DuraDash was leading up to it. So, you know, we hyped it in our email newsletter. We posted about it on Facebook a lot. You know, part of the stories that I did on the DuraDash Spotlight people, those were all on Facebook and on our webpage, and as a way to really, you know, engage people and get them to know what was going on. I also contacted like some Facebook power users who I know were in our, you know, Inspire support group and the Facebook group that we're not associated with, but is very active, and ask them to, you know, share the news, get the word out. Yeah, connecting with those like durables, those super volunteers to really participate, and in some cases even, you know, send out a press release or work with their local. There was someone who was going to exercise at her local gym and try to have her stuff coincide with this gym's grand reopening, that sort of thing. So yeah, just allowing people to be creative about it a little bit too was also great. You know, you can see we didn't have a ton of people, like a lot of people registered and didn't end up participating. We had about, you know, 40 people who ended up participating, but they were powerhouses. You know, they raised a lot of money.
Yeah, they were very successful. Did you
That's
have
a
like a
lot of money
specific,
per person.
Yeah.
did you have a specific timeline for communicating and reaching out to your fundraisers, Andy?
Yeah, so we opened registration on May 3rd. Our event was starting May 29th. And just ahead of that, I reached out to some of those key super active on social media people and just said, hey, you know, here's what we're doing. Come check out the platform. Give me any feedback. Let me know what you think. If there's anything we should add, anything you'd like to see that's not there, that sort of thing. And so we had some some testers kind of to make sure everything was ready to go. And then, you know, in the toolkit, I included some guidelines for when people might want to send out their messages, and wording for texting, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and email, because some people do one but not others, or some people do all of them, you know. So yeah, just kind of walking through that with them a little bit, and urging them to use that if they felt like they needed a template to get the word out.
Yeah, definitely. Is it okay with you if we share the toolkit with our
Yeah,
audience
absolutely.
today? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people would really benefit from just seeing an example of a
Do
successful.
you want me to share my screen, or you're already on it?
Oh, I wonder if I click on it, if it will
Yeah, it should.
share some.
And then you can also download a PDF of the toolkit right at the top. But yeah, so it just,
Yeah. Oh, download PDF here. I see.
yeah. And so people could have the whole thing at their fingertips.
Perfect. So yeah, you'll see that she kind of put the about here in the mission statement, and basically just from what I'm assuming, just the overall mission and role expectations of your fundraisers, right? And then that communication schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really put together very nicely. So yeah, congratulations on this. So yeah, we'll try to incorporate that in the email follow-up. So Candace will take care of that for everyone. Yeah, so I think I'll switch over to Emily's campaign real quick, and then we'll get back to more of information on peer-to-peer and everything. So Emily, your campaign was also wildly successful, and you've reached so many families. I love the fact that you put this impact metric right at the top just to show that to all of your supporters. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your campaign. What was it like in comparison to previous years?
So in a typical year, let's see, I've been running this program for 5 years now. And we are like right on track with our best year ever. So I think probably by the end of the calendar year, we might be near 200K, which is amazing. Considering we're still coming out of this pandemic shenanigans. So we changed the program in 2 ways. The first thing we did is go ahead and click on that. That's great.
Find a climb.
Because these events, yeah, go ahead. These events are online, but there's an in-person component for places that choose or are able to, like based on CDC or whatever guidelines, can do that. So each of these pins on this, and this is just like a geo sheet, it's like a free map, right?
This is so cool.
Yeah, like, so click on one of those pins, any of them. So it gives you the name of the volunteer who's leading this event, their email, how to join the team, like click here and then click join the team, right?
This is amazing. I love how you incorporated that map.
And this way, you know, like if you find us through CauseVox, it'll take you here, or if you find us through our social media channels, you can also get to this as well. That one's the virtual team, the one that's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I made that one. I was like, this is my team.
That's great.
I put my coworker in charge of it though. So, but yeah, like the fact that we have so many volunteers who like Andy's folks, we communicate a lot through Facebook, you know, it has limitations, but there are certainly advantages to being able to like build community in that way. We have people who like get on there and they're like, oh, this is what I did this, you know, this month to churn up some fundraising. You guys are not going to believe this, honestly. So it's the easiest thing in the entire world. Now, if you don't celebrate Easter, I have another option. So bear with me for a second. Like, we had all of our volunteers, they just picked up a bunch of Easter eggs, and they said, okay, for a $20 donation, we will hide eggs. We will hide 20 eggs in your front yard. For a $40 donation, we will hide 40 eggs in your front yard. And so like all of these little pins had like 2 or 3 families who were like stuffing eggs like frantically the day before Easter, like all over their like living room floor, just like, what have I done to my life? But like, I mean, honestly, we raised like $50,000 in like a week on these eggs. Like, people were like, wait a minute. So you're taking something off my plate as a parent, right? Because our target audience is, you know, moms and dads and parenting people. And so if we take something off their plate and they get to donate to a good cause, like as a result, like it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. So where did you communicate that? Was that like a specific, like timed push, like a specific time frame?
Yeah. So through our Facebook group, like all of a sudden, you know, I'm monitoring like all of the teams and how they're all doing. And I was like, whoa, team, you know, Northwest Indiana, what are you doing right now? Like, you have just made like $3,000 in a week. And she was like, oh, here's my trick, Easter eggs. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. And so then everybody copied her homework and had great success with it. My other thought was, you know, we're like a Mother and Father Day focused organization. And so, you know, Mother's Day hits like right before our big like end of season push. And I was like, you know, the other option is you could do flowers in flower pots, like delivered to front doors. And I mean, for the cost that it would be to, you know, to the volunteer to do that, like they would be able to like recoup that very easily. The other thing that makes our model really successful is that most of the funds that are being raised here go to local organizations, which I realize is like kind of crazy, but our nonprofit does a lot of certificate and certification training for professionals, but a lot of the people who do the work with us are peers, or they're not people who have letters after their name. They're not LCSWs, they're not doctors, they're not prescribers of anxiety medications and things like that. And so the way that the rest of us advocate and get involved in trying to make this landscape a better place is we, you know, have our own local support group that we want to be able to like bring in guest speakers to, or that we want to be able to hire babysitters so that the like local support group can meet while the kids are there, but they're not interrupting the discussion that's happening.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, we take a little bit off the top as the like parent organization, but then we get to partner with like everything from like local state chapter organizations to like local nonprofits to, you know, local doctors' offices who want to offer free services. Like, we're just, you know, there's room for everybody in our sandbox.
That's great. So are these team pages that we're looking at the charities that you supported, or just your own, your teams that are supporting the other charities?
So all of these teams are registered through us. So they've all been trained through us. And some of them are raising money for like a state chapter that's essentially like a part of our international organization. So like PSI North Carolina is our state chapter in North Carolina. But in Erie, Pennsylvania, that team is run by a bunch of doulas who want to provide free postpartum doula services to members of their community. And so they use the funding to like fill that pot to then be able to provide free services for people.
I see. Thanks for clarifying that. So I know for Andy, it seemed like the ease of use and then peer-to-peer were the key features of CauseVox that really helped them bump up their success this year. What would you say would be a product of CauseVox, like the specific feature on CauseVox that you think is instrumental in this success here?
Honestly, I really like working with you guys. I feel like when I have a question or when, and it's always user error, like it's always that I can't figure out like what I'm supposed to be doing to make the like the data print out correctly, or like, you know, it's not giving me the information I need, but it's because like I had a filter wrong. And so I'm always like, what am I doing? I don't, you know, and you guys are fantastic at like, you know, getting the things that we need back to us fast enough that like all of my volunteers stay happy, which is what makes, you know, what makes us successful.
Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, it's what we're here for. We're here to make this process as easy as possible for you. So I'm really happy to hear that, Emily. So
absolutely, I agree as well. The responsiveness and the help has been wonderful. Yeah.
And I've worked with other fundraising platforms and have not had that same experience.
Well, we hope that we'll still keep up with you know, anything that comes your way. So I am curious, when you were engaging your fundraisers to participate, Emily, and also Andy, if you wanted to add any more, how did you identify your participants and recruit them and prepare them? So I know Andy spoke a little bit about this, but Emily, if you wanted to speak more.
We are so based on personal network that we rely really heavily on people who are already connected to PSI in some other way to then, you know, bring people in. So one of the things that our like parent organization does is we train people to provide like peer support groups, right? And so if you have a peer support group that's meeting, granted it's not meeting in person right now, but it at earlier points was, if you have an organization like that where people are engaging with that like local Facebook page, it's really easy to then say like, oh, hey, we're also doing this event, which is free for everyone to participate. And if you want to, you can fundraise and then get a shirt and, you know, all of this, but that's all optional. Like just come and hang out is sort of our motto, which I think is like the same level of approachability that Andy has. Like any activity is activity, right? Like, I mean, our target demographic has just had a baby, so I'm in the same boat. Like we're not trying to make people run a 5K. Like we're saying, if you went outside today, right, you deserve 2 pats on the back, you know, like whatever it is that got you moving or that got you feeling a little bit better, like that's what we want. Yeah.
Well put. That's good insight for just that kind of meeting your participant where they are. Like we've been talking about that the same way with the donor base, all summits so far too, meeting people where they are in this very personal relationship that we have with individuals. So I think that's really great, just having an understanding about that. I don't know, Anna, if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, which isn't to say that I'm like anti 5K. Like we all of a sudden this year we were like, why don't we offer a 5K option? So we like created another CauseVox page that is like the Run Out of the Darkness 5K.
Oh, I didn't know you started that.
Yeah.
Like, wait, that one's
I was like, this is crazy. Like we don't have to, I don't have to train these people. I don't have to, like, all I'm doing is collecting their $50 and then mailing them a t-shirt and a medal, which cost me, you know, like $12. So, and we paid very little in Facebook advertising too. And still, you know, from something that had like never occurred before or been heard of before. I mean, I think we made like 3,500 or something like that. So
that's great. So like also, so outside of the peer-to-peer component, just going back to straight donations, what has been the response from your donor base? Are they clearly, I mean, it's been successful, but have you heard any feedback about donors giving online? Are they having an okay experience? Are they comfortable with it? Anything about that donation process?
Yeah, for us, it went really well. It was easy. I had one or two questions from people. There were some people who wrote and said, I want to donate, but I'm only donate offline via check. Can I do that? And yeah, of course. But it was also easy for me to add that to our donation total on the back end with offline donations or manual donations. So yeah, it was a very easy experience. Nobody had any major issues, and I always expect something's going to go wrong, but nothing did. So it was great.
Good, thank God. How about you, Emily? What was your experience with your donors?
Yeah, I would say it's very easy. Like it's intuitive. I donate to other climbs that I'm running. Like when I see a team that's like, struggling to get started, I'm like, okay, like here's $10 to kind of get you feeling like you're moving forward or whatever. And I donating through CauseVox is easy. I can attest to that. What was I going to say?
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to take a look at your donation forms. So it looks like you were accepting one-time and monthly recurring gifts for your campaign, right? Awesome. And for Andy, you were also doing, were you doing?
It's just not recurring, just one time.
So
But it was really easy, and I know there was at least one person who wasn't participating but went through and donated to every single person's page. So they obviously had a great time using the donation form.
That is so cool. I love that.
Sweet.
I love that. That is really sweet. I saw one question come in about ROI. If you both are able to, do you have that information offhand? Do you know your return on investment for your campaigns?
I mean, I can say just as an estimate, we paid the CauseVox fees for several months. And other than that, it was all kind of just me making graphics and coming up with things to do. And, we debated whether or not to do medals. We've done medals in the past and, we weren't sure. But what we landed on was just making graphics. And then on the day that after the DoorDash ended, on Facebook, starting at noon, we just posted medals that for people with the graphics of like, most cats petted on a walk, or most activity done by a person with a spinal leak, most activity done by a person without a leak, most money raised second, by a team, most money raised by an individual, that sort of thing. And everybody really liked that. It was not a physical medal, but it was a graphic representation of a medal, and everybody else got to see it too. And basically everybody who participated got something. If they weren't able to raise very much money, or they didn't end up participating as much as they wanted to, they still got a start where you are medal graphic. So yeah, we were just trying to keep our costs really low because we didn't know how successful the campaign would be. Knowing that we were able to raise this much, next year we might do a little bit more. But really, our expenses were really just the CauseVox fees. So
great. And I love how you made it a point to honor your participants even on a budget. I think having them understand that they are valued and that they are part of your movement and part of your mission, not just helping you out, but actually affecting change. And if they can be rewarded in some way, I think that's really important too. So
yeah, and they actually really, really liked it. I thought, well, maybe some people will think this is corny, but no, people were really into it. They were posting it on their Instagrams and their Facebook saying, look, I won this award, so it was really great.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Emily, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, for us, so we our local fundraising model is relatively new. I mean, I think it's 4 or 5 years old, and the event itself is 10 years old. So what we found when we switched to the local fundraising model was people were highly motivated because they could talk specifically about where the money is going. And because, for us, there are so many ways that people return to wellness after having a baby and having like depression or anxiety or OCD or whatever. We didn't want it to feel like there was only one way to get there. And this way, like you could donate to like a local support group, or you could donate to like a local doctor's office who's providing free services, or you could, donate into a pot that's providing what's the word? Scholarships to like our trainings for people, for professionals, we don't even take that much off the top. For our local organizations, like they get 75% of the money that they raise.
Awesome. That's great. So in the last 5 minutes, I do have a few more questions that I'm going to try to get through. So for both of you, Andy and Emily, what do you plan to do moving forward? Are you going to move forward with virtual only? Do you think you're going to transition back to in-person? Do you think you're going to do a hybrid? What does future fundraising look like for you?
I think for us, we're sticking with virtual. That's where our audience is. It's actually interesting. My very first book was about motherhood and feminism and postpartum experience. And when I was out there promoting my book as a first-time author, it was a real challenge. Where's my audience? Because they're not at Barnes & Noble at 7 p.m. for a book reading, right? They're at home in the middle of the night looking on their computer at 2 a.m., right? And so that's what I did in order to do that kind of marketing for my book. And we have the same challenge here is, where's our community? And most of them are largely at home and they're on their phones and they're participating virtually, and that's how they feel connected. So while we do have, a medical symposium every year, that is usually in person, this year will be hybrid. For our fundraising events and peer-to-peer events and things like that, it's virtual. And this experience with CauseVox just made me very confident about moving forward with that, and definitely doing this again next year for DoorDash.
Great. So sticking with virtual, good to hear.
Yeah, I think COVID forced us to invest more time and energy into virtual than we had been, because we were so based on, like meeting at a park and building community in person, that we had gotten away from the fact that some of us are, limited in our mobility because we've just had a baby, or some of us are honestly so anxious that we are paralyzed with the idea of leaving the house. Or the kid doesn't wake up from the nap and you can't make it to the event there are just so many factors, right? So if the only way to participate is in person, we're missing a huge part of our population by not incorporating ways to participate that are online only. So we will continue to have both as options moving forward.
Gotcha. That's great. Just resharing my screen real quick. And to those who were asking about, I think Katie was asking about hosting a fundraiser. What's the membership for a one-time fee? We have basic plans. We have like our free plan. We also have some paid plans. And like I said, you don't have to have a contract with that. You can do a month-to-month thing. So if you stay on for the 3 to 3:15 session, I'm just going to review the pricing page a little bit more. But in addition to that, I don't know why there it is. We do have 50% off all CauseVox plans right now. So when you when you schedule that demo with us, or you can email support@causevox.com, we can apply the 50% off to those who have participated in our summit this year, or we can discuss more about your digital fundraising plans on the demo and then apply it afterward. So that was just a little bit more about moving forward, Katie. Hope that helped. And then, so thank you again, Andy and Emily. You have been fantastic, and I honestly cannot wait to see your future campaigns on CauseVox.
Oh. Hey, I know that we've been looking at the Q&A for questions, and thank you so much. This has been so Awesome. Andy and Emily, I love working with both of you. So it's so fun to see you on and see you here. And I saw this one question that I thought was really good because I think there is, I know you guys, but the audience doesn't know you guys. So Lisa asked, what do you have to already have to get that kind of increase? I think that, they were speaking more to you, Andy, from previous years to this year. Did you have to have a big email list, lots of Facebook followers, or how do you help orgs that don't have that?
Yeah, we didn't have a huge increase in Facebook followers or, a substantial increase in our email list. I think just being more organized about this campaign was one thing that helped. Having a platform that people could use really easily, that was a huge factor. I think in the past, it was kind of just organized a little bit, like people talked about it on Facebook and people donated through Facebook. So it wasn't as clear, it wasn't quite as like you go to CauseVox, you do this, this is what happens. So it's just, everything was just a little bit more fragmented. We didn't have any sort of instructions about like how to do things. It was just more like, hey, let's, so yeah, having a more organized plan this year and being really deliberate about how we promoted it and contacted people about it, I think that was the main thing, because I don't think we had much of a change in terms of Facebook followers over the past year. At least not a precipitous jump that would explain the big increase in fundraising. Yeah, but I think definitely having a peer-to-peer platform helped.
That's great. Yeah, no, that was an excellent question. Sorry that we didn't get to all of them. I wasn't checking the chat. I must be honest with you all. But yeah, I think this has been really great. If you still have questions, you can reach out to either Andy or Emily. I'm sure they'd be happy to chat with you all. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us again, ladies. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, do you want us to put our emails in the chat or anything like that?
If you're comfortable. If not, we can give organization website information.
Yeah, I pasted the links to the campaigns in the chat as well, so everyone can go see your awesome campaigns online.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind sharing your emails, I'm sure there's so many organizations that would love to connect and continue learning from you. So thank you both so much for being on today and sharing about your experiences. It's a delight.
That was wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting.
Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.